and Vibes with DJ Sims. Hey guys, it's your girl DJ Sims and welcome back to my 5th episode now of Chat and Vibes with DJ Sims. And for today's episode, I'm super excited because this is going to be an interesting, juicy episode. I've got an amazing guest. I've actually got a psychologist. I have got Sadia, psychologist, in the building with me.
There you go. Oh,
I'm going to clap for you.
Perfect.
Okay, I'm so excited. So
Me too. I'm so excited.
Yeah, so you're a psychologist.
Yep, former psychologist.
Coach.
Yeah.
A therapist.
Yeah.
Used to be a psychology teacher as well.
Teacher by trade. Yeah.
So for those of people that are watching that may not know too much about you or what you do currently and what you've done, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
So I was teaching psychology for many years, like both in London, then I moved to Dubai to teach psychology, and then during COVID, I just kind of picked up a few kind of courses on coaching, like more relationship coaching, and I never really did anything with it. And it was only about a year ago that my mum was saying to me, Sadia, I think you should do more than just teaching. You really need to like start talking online and doing something a bit bigger. Mm-hmm. And I never took it seriously, but then she came out to Dubai and she bought like a tripod and she's like, just do something, like do something. And I said, okay, fine, I'll do a video and I'll just see how it goes. I mean, I was a bit anxious about it, but I just put a few videos out on Instagram, and then praise be to God, it just kind of became something. And now that's kind of what I do full time.
Yeah, that's amazing. So when you say you were like a psychology teacher,
I'm
just intrigued. Did you do psychology teaching at school?
In schools, high schools and everything. Yeah, I have students that are probably watching this right now and they'll probably comment and be like, she was my teacher. Yeah, in London.
So why relationship psychology now?
Do you know what happened? I didn't actually mean to go so into relationships, but naturally all my friends would call me every time they have relationship problems and I would just be like, oh, that's because and just give them my like little 2 pence.
Yeah.
And they were like, you should do something with this, because I didn't realize that that's why I'm being jealous or that's why I'm being anxious. And I'm like, oh, you didn't know that? And they're like, why would I know that? And I started to realize that not everybody realizes why they act that way, especially in relationships. So I kind of focused a little bit more on relationships when I was going online. And I also realized that that's what the audience wants. Those are the videos that get the most views. Those are videos that gets the most reposts and saves. So it made me realize that people are quite hungry to learn how to be better in relationships.
I think that's such a good point. Like, people want to know about that stuff. And I think when it's coming from someone who's an expert in their field, like it's not just coming from, obviously friends and family advice is always great, but you know, when it's coming from like an expert, let's say, it's so much better.
It's a bit more fair. They think, okay, so they think it's a bit more fair. So no, it is definitely, people want to do better, because having a bad relationship actually affects every area of your life. If you're not good in your relationships, you'll find that your work and your family lives, everything becomes a bit difficult. But when your relationships are going well, everything in life feels a bit easier. So it's the area that people want to do the best in, but they don't know how.
Yeah. So, okay, so social media, you obviously, started posting your videos on social media. They've kind of gone viral. You've ended up on big pages like Shade Borough, for example.
Big up Shade Borough.
Yeah, so they've gone viral. So how did that come about? Like, what was your first video that went viral? And how did that social media thing kind of come about?
I was really lucky. I was on 200 followers or something. I just started about a week or two ago, and then Officially Urban picked me up and they said, can you do a video on this, tell us your views on feminism. So I was like, okay, I'm not really a feminist though. And they said, okay, don't worry, just do whatever you think. So I did that, and that went quite big. And then everybody in Dubai and London was saying to me, you need to get on Made You Think. You need to get on Made You Think. And I was like, what's Made? I didn't know anything about social media. I didn't know much about it. And I was like, what's Made You Think? And they're like, that's my favorite page. You have to be on Made You Think. And I was like, I'm never going to get on Made You Think. It's a big page. And then randomly, I think me and Limelight were talking about it, and they started following me while I was on the phone to Limelight. And I was like, Made You Think just started following me. And I was like, that's so crazy. And he goes, oh, they know. He goes, now post better content because they're watching you. And I was like, oh, I don't really think they'll like what I'm talking about. But then I posted a video on why women cheat. And Made You Think audience, it's all about men bashing women and stuff. So they he quickly posted that, and from there Made You Think started posting a few more videos, and I actually owe a lot to him. I don't think he realizes, but it actually did help kind of stabilize my position in social media, because Made You Think for some reason has a lot of, I shouldn't say for some reason, for very valid reasons, it has a really respectable kind of reputation. Everybody knows Made You Think, everyone respects it. So from that, it kind of just went went a bit bigger, and I'm very grateful for that. Yeah.
No, I love that.
Yeah.
So what was your most viral video? Was it?
I think I did something on Gold Diggers.
Gold Diggers,
Yeah, that was kind of the one that went the most viral, because I just, you know what it is? What happens on social media is people adopt other people's views. So if they hear Andrew Tate or so-and-so talking about women like money, they're like, yeah, all women are gold diggers. And you'll hear every guy saying all women are gold diggers, but I don't think these men attract gold diggers. You have to be qualified to attract a gold digger. And I was trying to say that broke men don't need to worry about gold diggers. We're not coming for you. They're not coming for you. You know, we gold diggers will leave you alone. Don't worry about it. And so that kind of went viral. But what I notice is whenever you're being divisive and you're turning men against women in some kind of way, that's what goes viral, which is bad. I don't think that's a good thing. But unfortunately, whenever you're being a bit controversial or you're saying something about men versus women, for some reason,
people seem to love it.
They love it, yeah.
So you mentioned that like you're not really a feminist. And like, to be fair, that's like, you know, that's normal to be a feminist, but a lot of females might have an opinion on that and be like, no, you should be like standing up females a little bit more. Do you ever get those type of comments
all the time? But I've never understood why, because I don't feel oppressed in any way, shape or form. I feel like I've got so many privileges from being a woman. I feel like I can, you know, sometimes if I need help when I'm carrying bags, I get help. If I was to do, like, if I need to call the police for something, they're a bit softer with me than they would be with a man. I feel like I can sometimes walk past a bunch of guys and I don't feel like I'll get robbed. I might get wolf whistles, but I don't feel like I feel like I get a lot of privileges from being a woman. And also in my personal experience, I found working with women really difficult. And everyone always told me, oh, you know, feminism and you don't get paid as much as men and it's so unfair. But in my personal life, I felt like I wasn't getting paid as much because I had other women that I worked with that made my life really difficult and didn't want me to progress. So for me personally, I felt like women were preventing my progress. And the male bosses I always had were so supportive. So I was like, why am I being told that men are the enemy? Like, I don't feel that way. So I started just kind of started questioning the role of feminism a lot. And when I first started doing it, it was quite rare. So I got so much hate. I remember my first video that was anti-feminist, some big feminist page reposted it and said, this is her LinkedIn, this is her school, everybody send their emails and tell them to fire her. And that person it was some podcast woman, I can't remember her name, but I'm coming for you and I find you, but she reposted it and about 200-300 people emailed my school and said she's anti-feminism, she spreads hate. So I had to have a conversation with my boss at the time. So it got real. But you know, now because of the rise of Andrew Tate and podcasts and stuff, now people have more freedom to whether they want to or not be a feminist. But when I first did it, it was quite rare. So
but I think it's quite a nice way you look at it, because when you mentioned, you know, like you feel, you know, privileged.
Very privileged.
I think it's so nice. That's a really nice.
I love being a woman. Oh my God, I get away with murder. I get away with absolute murder. Like, especially I live in Dubai, so you know, I never have to queue for anything. I never have to pay for anything. Like, you know, there's so many things that is such a privilege for being a woman, purely because I'm a woman, that I don't see why I would ever play the victim. I think it's really difficult being a man of color than it would be of being just a woman. I think there's other issues in life that are far more pressing than being a woman. Being a woman for me is my superpower. I feel like I am the most powerful being because I'm a woman, because little things like I will do something and I'll be like, don't worry, I'll just talk to the manager and I'll get it for free. And it's because I'm a woman I do that. And so I feel so empowered by being a woman. I don't feel at all a victim or oppressed. Praise be to God, I don't feel it.
Well, that's just inspiring me.
Is it? Come on.
I love that.
I love being a woman. It's my favorite thing in the world.
I think a lot of people, now that you've said it, I think a lot of people, I guess, will try almost play victim in certain situations.
But it's little things like, I know if my car breaks down, I don't have to do anything. I'll just stand outside. Somebody will stop and help me. Somebody will stop me. If I'm getting off the plane and I'm struggling with my bags, I'm not even struggling, but somebody will help me. But if I was a man, I wouldn't have those privileges. And I really feel it with authority. When it comes to police or managers, waiters and this, that, and that. Or when you go into bars and, you know, everybody else, like barmen, you know, treat men quite badly. We walk straight past them. We don't even have to say our name. We walk in and we sit down, and it's because I'm a woman, so I feel really empowered by it.
So not being a feminist,
yeah.
What's your opinion on Andrew Tate?
It's a difficult one, because I wouldn't say I'm a feminist, but I'm also not an Andrew Tate kind of person either.
Okay.
I'm not this red pill where we hate women or this. I'm actually against both things, because I get equal amount of hate from feminists as I do from misogynist men. So there will be some videos where women will be like, you're so misogynist, and other videos where men will be like, you just take women's side. So I think I'm quite neutral. What I think with Andrew Tate, the problem is there is men who cannot relate to him in any way, shape or form. They don't have the money, the privilege, the looks or anything like him, but they're adopting his views. And it's like, but you have to qualify to have his views. Okay. If you think that you can get a woman to listen to you and cook for you and clean for you, that comes with, I look after you, I pay for you, I give you a nice house, and then women naturally submit. But when you're just any guy thinking that you can be like Andrew Tate, it's ridiculous. So I think the problem is he appeals to every man, when really he should only appeal to the 1% man, that high valued man. But unfortunately, any guy thinks he's Andrew Tate now.
So do you think that with him, it's more like he's kind of is talking sense, but maybe to a certain amount of people?
He's talking sense to a high value man. He's talking sense to a man who is financially very stable, probably attractive, and can and change his woman's life. He's probably the type of guy that can get a girl and be like, what business do you want? I'll start it. What clothes do you want? I'll get it. What house do you want? I'll buy it for you. So that man has a different woman. That woman with another guy will be a completely different woman. She'll be ratchet and loud, but with him, she'll silence. So he's appealing, and his advice should only fall in the ears of men that qualify like that. Your average man should not be able to relate to Andrew Tate.
Yeah. So with Andrew Tate, what do you think about him being banned off social media though? Because do you think that's going to make a difference?
You know what, I saw a clip of him talking to Piers Morgan, so I don't want to say this is like from me. I actually saw it.
I saw that interview. Yeah. I was like, as soon as I saw that, I was like, I need to watch this.
It's a good mix of two toxic men together. It's like, so what I found in that I did agree with, he said there's far more dangerous messages being sent in the form of Lil Nas or Cardi B, and to silence me is a bit, it doesn't make too much sense. So I do think, I can understand why he was banned if it's because of his abuse allegations and stuff, but if it's purely his opinion, there's other opinions that are equally dangerous that we also need to monitor.
A lot of people have said, like, when I've had opinions on Andrew Tate, a lot of people are like, oh, well,
what's your opinion, by the way? Can I ask?
Yes, So, my opinion is, I think what he's saying, I think there is sense to it.
Yeah.
I think I didn't actually realise what you said was probably true, that there's a certain amount of people that fall into a category that can relate more.
Yeah.
But I do think that there are some things that he was saying, whether it's true or not, whether he meant it with his heart or not, that I think young generation are going to look up to and think that's right.
Yeah.
When I don't think that they can, because they don't know. They don't know what's right and wrong.
And I always feel uncomfortable.
They don't know how their life is going to end up.
Yeah, and he makes a lot of comment about teenage girls, 19-year-old. I feel uncomfortable when a grown man talks about young women.
Yeah, exactly.
I just feel uncomfortable. Right or wrong,
straight away,
it makes me feel uncomfortable.
Straight away. Even
so if you're saying a 19-year-old girl is a better catch because she's been through less men, to me that makes me feel uncomfortable, because you shouldn't be counting the bodies of a 19. She shouldn't exist in your world.
And same with, if there was, a 30-year-old woman talking about a 19-year-old, it would be the same thing.
Same thing. A 19-year-old shouldn't exist to men in their 30s.
Exactly.
And the fact that you've got an opinion on them makes me uncomfortable. That's what
I hated.
That's what I didn't like.
For me being 19, when I saw that, I was like, no, I feel so sick.
It feels sickly, right? Yes.
But I do think that him being banned off social media, I don't think that's going to do anything. He's still everywhere. He's still in our faces. Everyone's still talking about him. We're talking about him. And also there are people that I love, such as Cardi B, who have said questioning things.
Yeah, worrying things as well. So I get what his point was with that, and I adopt the same view.
So you speak about really interesting topics on your social media,
Thank
the
you.
whole psychology thing, and there are a couple that I want to get into. So cheating is a big topic,
of course,
and we have a psychologist in this room. So so I want to know, how do you know if a woman is cheating?
You know what I have to say, I don't know if it's because I live in big cities. I live in London and Dubai. But one thing I would definitely say from my observation, women cheat just as much as men. They're just better at it. And if anything, they do a lot more micro cheating. What I mean by this is one of the things that women can do that men can't is on a daily basis, they can plant seeds for cheating without realizing. So if she just posts a beautiful picture, guys can comment and she can say, thank you, da, 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 and that tiny thing is happening on a daily basis. Whereas for men, they can't shoot their shot with that many girls and get a reply every day. So we're living in a time where if you wanted to be a female cheat, it'd be the easiest time to be that way. So I do think some of the big indicators I would say is firstly, it's her background. Her home life, I think, says a lot about her. You know, when you're given a lot of unconditional love, you don't crave it outside the home as much. So women that come from good homes and backgrounds, they don't crave the same validation. So when a woman is craving a lot of male attention or attention in general, there's a hole there. People want to label, you know, say the word hoe and this, that and the other, but there's probably some kind of emotional hole. So that I would say is background. And also I would also say her culture in terms of how she behaves. Does she post a lot of bad things? Does she try and seek male attention all the time? Does her day-to-day conduct suggest she's inviting male attention? Because if she is, there's only a matter of time before she gives in. And final thing is if she's starved of validation from her man.
Yeah, that is a big one.
And I would say this is the biggest one.
That is a big one.
I think even the good girl can turn bad if she's starved of attention from her man. If your man is pouring water into your cup on a daily basis, she can't see other men. She becomes blind to other men. But you know, when your man, you look beautiful, he doesn't say you look nice, or you don't make time for each other, he ignores you, no longer gives you attention. She's so starved in that moment that unfortunately all it takes is one man to give one bit of attention. She'll zoom in on the attention, forget all the other red flags in this man, and he'll become attractive to her because it's a feeling she's chasing, not a person.
Not a person.
Yeah.
That is actually a really good point. I see a lot of TikToks actually, and it's like, oh, if my man's not going to give me attention, it's fine. I can go find it in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
But it's like, that is number one, so toxic.
So toxic.
And it's like, true, are you chasing a feeling or a person?
Never a person.
Never a person.
It's never a person. You know, most people are chasing a feeling. Even when men cheat, it's usually, you know, something starved in them as well. It might be ego, they might have lost their job and they need to feel manly again. They might have not had success with the women. Their partner might not be giving them as much attention. They're chasing a feeling, and that feeling can be in any person, but that person gives them a feeling, and when that feeling is gone, they no longer need it. And women particularly, is when their partner, if you want to keep a loyal wife, all you have to do is remind her she's loved. It's really simple and easy. You remind her she's loved, she won't seek it. But if you forget to give her that, she'll become desperate for it, unfortunately. Yeah.
How would you know if a man is cheating then? Is there a difference?
Men are a little bit more sloppy. You know, like they're a bit more, women we're so slick. Yeah, they're so slick with it. You can't catch a woman. Well, it's so great. But they're just so slick with it. Yeah. They're a lot more slick with it. With men, they're a little bit more sloppy. It's very easy. It's a phone stuff and it's unclear explanations. The usual signs. But what I would say, one big indicator for men who they're going to cheat before you even know them, it's male role models in their home. Okay. You know, in their home, if they grew up with a role model of what the men are around them, if they are in a stable home, see mum and dad together, see that kind of life, they learn the tools and skills to maintain a relationship without realizing. Whereas when that bit is missing, or all they've seen is men around them that cheat, they normalize infidelity, and they almost see it as that's what they're supposed to do. So I would say home life is important for men as well. Yeah.
So you have mentioned in a lot of these points that personal life and home life and your upbringing plays a big part in a lot of things. Yeah. But would you say that kind of shapes your personality?
Almost. I you know, unfortunately, we can always kind of adapt and change. But what your childhood does is it teaches you core beliefs about yourself. Mm-hmm. So if you've got parents that love you unconditionally and support you, your core belief is the world loves you. The people in the real world love you. Yeah. But if your parents are inconsistent and a bit unloving, your core belief is people are inconsistent and unloving. They're going to abandon you. So when you go into a relationship, you're waiting for the abandonment. You're waiting for them to let you down. Whereas when you have a secure, loving lifestyle, you just assume everyone loves you. You might have friends who just have a bit of dodgy boyfriends, but they trust them blindly. Yeah. And you'll have other friends who've got the best boyfriend in the world and they're always looking for a problem. Yeah. And it's because they come into relationships with those core beliefs. And if they don't undo them, it can cause damage.
Yeah. So would you say men or women cheat more? Like, who cheats more out of men and women? That's the right question.
I think men.
Or would you say there's someone that even cheats more?
I would think that men desire cheating more, but women can cheat more.
Okay.
So I think men desire it all the time. They always, you know, they love novelty, they love chase, they love, you know, new experiences. But they ain't got it like that. So a lot of them don't have it that easy, whereas women desire it less. They don't really want to cheat.
Like, for example, I wouldn't want to cheat.
No one wants to cheat.
Yeah.
Women don't really want it. They want nothing. You know what? I would argue, I would go as far as to say, if a woman met a man and he was the first man that she's ever been with and he treats her well, makes her feel like a queen, I don't feel like she would desire another man.
No.
Men would still desire, they've got curiosity, they like variety, whereas for women, they don't have that actual curiosity. They desire comfort and safety.
Yeah.
And if their current man isn't making them feel that, they'll seek it outside. But they're actually seeking comfort and security. And if the first guy they meet can give them that, they're laughing through life. Yeah, so
laughing through life.
Yeah, really.
But there is, like, you know, a lot of people who say this, and I've actually seen people, I don't know if they are, but they claim to be like relationship coaches on TikTok, but I've seen their pages and they don't look like one, so it's quite concerning that they're actually putting content out, not actually doing what they're saying, if that makes sense. But anyways, I've seen videos on TikTok and it's like, oh, you shouldn't just be in one relationship your whole life, like you should, you know, not necessarily cheat and experiment, but you know, you should almost be out there a bit more, like you shouldn't always be in that one relationship your whole life. I don't agree.
I disagree.
I think that if you have, if you know, it is your first relationship, and as you said, you're comfortable, you're safe, you're both loving each other, you're both for each other. Why should
you're
you
missing
go
out on
else?
nothing?
Exactly.
You're missing out on nothing but novelty. And all that new relationships do is create new either desires or traumas. That's all they do. They either create new expectations. So if you have lots of great relationships in a row, all it does is like, well, my ex used to do this. Blah, blah, blah. So all it does is create more expectations, and expectations is a killer of joy. The more expectations you have, the less satisfaction. Or what it does is it creates traumas. Each person will hurt you in a different way, and you can't leave a war unscathed. You always have scars. So when you have lots of relationships, they leave lots of scars, and then somebody who didn't cause those scars will have to pay for them in the end when you do settle down. So the less partners you can have, the more satisfied you'll be, the more grateful you'll be. And you know, I don't mean this in a bad way, but lower expectations actually makes you more satisfied. Like, for example, when you go to a restaurant and they've got a menu with thousands of things, so many things, you will automatically, whatever you order, be like, oh, this isn't that great because there's so many options. But when you have a home cooked meal, you've got no options, so you appreciate it so much more. So alternatives is a killer of satisfaction. It's not one that makes you I can't understand why anyone would say that the more partners you have, the better it is for you. I can't think of one reason. And a lot of people say, oh, it gets it out of your system. Getting what out of your system? You're always going to have sexual organs, so you're not getting anything out of your system. All you're doing is maybe getting bored of sex, but that includes getting bored of sex with your new partner.
Exactly.
So that's what it does. Yeah.
So I was going to ask you as well, is should you forgive somebody who, let's say, a cheat? So, you know, you've been cheated on and they come running back because, you know, a lot of the times that probably does happen.
Yeah, of course.
Should you forgive that person?
Context is everything. I would say when you have a life together, when you have families that have been intertwined and you've created kids and you know each other and stuff and you've really been there for each other, I don't think you should measure people on their worst behavior. I do think that you can, if there's a bigger picture, zoom out of that and, you know, work on what caused the cheating. You, instead of being so angry, well, of course be angry, but you can actually turn that chaos into curiosity. What was missing? What's going on in you? Maybe you're upset about something in life. What were you seeking? What can I do more of? How can we rebuild? If you've got that bigger picture. If you don't have that bigger picture and you're already a bit traumatized and anxious anyway, all it will do is make you punish your partner in the future.
Yeah.
All you'll do is collect more data against them until you ruin what's left. So I would say it depends on the person, but if you are secure and you've got a bigger picture, there's people out there that have been together for 10 years, they've buried parents together, like they've gone through long marriages and they've got kids together. And if somebody steps out of boredom or desire or just seeking a feeling, can you rebuild from that? I would say when you've got kids, your happiness should derive from keeping the home together, not just about you. But when you don't have that, it's difficult, especially if you are anxious as a person. All it will do is traumatize you further and your relationship will fall apart anyway. So you're just you're flogging a dead horse in that case. So it depends.
To be fair, I really agree with that. Like situation dependent.
Everything, and it's life, isn't it?
Yeah. So you also did a video on anxious attachment.
Yes.
And I feel like that's become a lot more common in this generation, especially with social media now. Like for example, when my parents probably got to know each other, there was probably no such thing as people probably didn't even know the word of anxious attachment. Can you explain a little bit more about what that is?
It's a really interesting one. It's definitely one I suffer with. But what it is when you grow up with parents who are inconsistent. So 1 minute very loving and then very controlling and difficult. And 1 minute, so you might have parents that give you the silent treatment. So for instance, you do one thing wrong, they won't talk to you for a week. So you learn that the people that love you can leave you, love you, leave you, love you, leave you. You learn that. So when you go into relationships, you're going in with a mindset that this person is going to love me today, but if I do one thing wrong, they're going to leave me. So, or they're going to leave me anyway. They're going to abandon me at some point. So what you do is you go into the relationship vigilant, hyper vigilant for signs and threats that they're going to abandon you. And what it manifests as is jealousy. So you will say, for example, they say, I've got a new workplace. Instead of being like, congratulations, in your head, you're like, okay, who's working with you? And it better not be some bitch. In your head, it's like, you literally, your brain goes there.
You won't be like, you know what, congratulations.
Your brain goes somewhere else. It's awful. Or like they'll say, I've started a new gym. You're like, okay, better be a boys' gym. Like, like your brain will go straight there. And it's nonsense. It's crazy that you can feel that way, but you can't help it. Your brain is designed to look for dangers when you have that type of attachment. And it's really draining on the person you're with. Really, really draining on that person you're with, because there's only so much they can do as one person, because they didn't create that anxiety.
They didn't,
So they're getting all the punishment with none of the creation, so they don't know how to undo the damage. So it's really, really difficult, and it's really draining, and it's a real sad thing, because the anxious person has so much love to give.
I know.
They're so loving. They can't help it. They love their person. They love their partner the most out of all the attachment styles. They love and dedicate, and they're so loyal to their partner.
If anything, it's not something anyone would want to feel, being anxious all the time about certain things.
It's not a choice. But at the same time, for some people, it's like, well, this isn't my problem. I didn't create this in you, so I can't keep being punished for it. So it's a really sad dilemma to be in, I would say.
Some people probably wouldn't want to pick up those pieces. They would just want to leave and say, sorry, I can't deal with this.
And they've got every right to do that. They've got every right to do that. But it's just a real sad feeling for all the anxious person, because nobody loves harder than the anxious person, because they get absorbed into that person because they finally have someone to love, but that love is coupled with intense anxiety. So you can't even enjoy the love. You're like, I love this person to death, but all I'm doing is worrying that they're going to leave me. And it's a sad feeling. It's really sad. And you can't help your childhood, and you can't choose your childhood, but you have to at least take some accountability and remember, if your partner didn't cause this anxiety, stop punishing them for it.
Do you have any tips on how to kind of relieve it a little bit more? Yeah,
really track your thoughts. Okay. So every time you get anxious, just remember, this isn't because my partner's cheating. It's because I'm an anxious person and I love this person so much. And right now I'm feeling, for some reason, it might just even be hormonal. For some reason, I'm worried this person's going to leave me. But remind yourself that your worry doesn't mean it's valid. Because sometimes we have a thought and we're like, oh, I've got to trust my instinct. No, your instinct's full of shit.
No. Trust your gut. Would you trust your gut?
My gut. I'd be in hospital or in jail if I trusted my gut. Honestly, I'm so crazy. If I followed my gut, I'd be in prison. So what I have to do, I have to remember my gut is actually a combination of all my fears, anxieties, insecurities shoved into my stomach. And so I will literally jump to, oh, he's doing this, that, and the other. But it's not real. It's not like, it's not gut. It's actually fears that are being triggered. Gut might be something simple like, I'm going to be late, I better leave early or something. Like gut is simple things. But deep fears, that's not gut. And people will always tell you trust your instinct. But no, that's when they're right in that moment, it's not because of instinct, it's because of evidence. So say for example, I said, I've got a feeling something's on his phone, let me check it. That wasn't my gut, it's because he was being dodgy with his phone for a while. It was evidence based, and that's where and they get it confused. But there's so many times where you have this feeling, oh God, I bet he's doing this, that, and the other. And then you call the person person, and he's just sitting there like, I don't know, just
Chilling.
chilling. Yeah. And you feel a bit bad because in your head you're like, oh, I already plotted your murder, and I already thought how I'm going to kill you, and I see, but you've done nothing wrong. So I would definitely say don't trust your gut. I think that's one of the worst advice that we have normalized, but it's
I was going to say it's very, very normalized.
Very normalized, and because you pick up on the one time your gut was right, but it wasn't your gut, it was evidence that spoke to you. So I would never say trust your gut. Your gut is all your anxieties, fears and phobias rolled into one and projected onto others.
Would you say women get more attached or have more of an anxious attachment than men do?
Unfortunately not. It's just that we are more able to express it like that. So when men express it, it can turn into violence, and it can turn into domestic violence. And so it's labeled as you're violent and this, that and the other, but because they don't know how to articulate themselves as much. So men, once they get frustrated, 1-2 words, and then it's throw hands. But with women, we can articulate our words, and also we're really good at investigating and finding. They're not good at that, so they don't know what to do. So they break things and do things, but it's expressed differently. And it's one of the reasons I always say people who commit domestic violence, that I'm absolutely a big, really, really hate the idea of domestic violence, but we have to treat the perpetrator as well, because they don't want to be violent. And
there's
as much
a reason.
like
it's
almost
trauma.
a
background reason.
And I don't think you should ever accept an abusive partner. I think you should definitely leave, but a part of, before you leave, you should also be curious, how do I help this person? They can't want to be like this. Some people make it really difficult to help them, but there's been a problem and we have to resolve it rather than just punishment. And there's so much support for the victims, as it should be, but there needs to be equal support for the people who do it, because that's also a disease. It's like an illness, an emotional illness, and we have to fix it. They need help, but they really need help. Jail, obviously, they need to do, but they also need help.
Would you say there's a difference between love and attachment?
Absolutely. And this is what the difference is. Attachment is when you attach to whoever's familiar to you based on your childhood. So if you grew up with abusive parents, you'll attach to an abusive partner. If you grew up with parents that are really critical and mean to you, you'll attach to somebody who's critical and mean to you. And nice guys will feel weird. You'll be like, oh, why are you complimenting me? Why are you nice to me? I don't like that. So you attach to what's familiar. And so if your home life was hostile and a roller coaster, you'll meet a partner that takes you on a roller coaster, and you'll think, I'm in love, but you're not. You're attached because that's your childhood attachment being reincarnated in a future relationship. Love feels safe. Love feels peaceful. Love is when I don't need to worry, this person's got me and I've got them and we're going to be fine. I don't need to check my phone all the time and he doesn't need to. I feel safe in his presence. I feel at peace. That feels unfamiliar to people who grew up in hostile environments, and they label it as boring and they push it away. But with people who grew up in hostile environments, they attach to the wrong people, unfortunately. So attachment and love. If you feel like you're in a chaotic relationship and you're like, but I can't let them go, I must be madly in love. No. You're madly attached.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, I think that's a big difference.
Yeah, huge difference. Love is so peaceful.
Yeah. No, I think that's very good for people to know, to be fair.
Yeah, bear that in mind.
Very
I'm proud of myself with that comment, actually. I don't know. I mean, I don't follow my own advice, but that's how it should be.
Another thing I find with this generation is like, I keep referring back to TikTok because
but that is your generation.
I see it a lot on my For You page. I see a lot of things coming up with like being toxic. About
and
people
glamorizing it.
Yeah, glamorizing it. Yeah. People thinking it's funny, like it's this is so toxic, it's going to be so funny. Like, do you know what I mean?
I always be like, I'm so toxic. Guess what I did today?
And it's just like, no, this is not it. Like, what are your views on toxicity? Because surely this should not be the generation.
It's all fun and games until you get to an age where your toxicity has left you really lonely.
Yeah, that's deep. That was deep.
It's all fun and games when you're 21, 22 years old. But there's going to get to an age where all your friends are married, they're all with kids because they weren't toxic, and or on the weekends they take their kids to parks and stuff like that, and you're sat there and you are thinking, where did my toxicity get me? And you'll get to another age where all what you did in your life means nothing, because the only question someone will ask you is how are your kids? And how's your partner? And if you have neither of those, you learn that your toxicity did you no service whatsoever. So it's all fun and games until life gets real.
Wow.
Until life starts
that
lifing.
That was really good advice. Okay, so you did a video on dating apps, and I personally have never ever had a dating app.
Yeah.
But I know you have a particular view on dating apps, and I know a lot of people who have had success stories with dating apps. Actually, I don't know a lot of people personally.
Yeah,
I've seen
we've all seen
stories.
it. Yeah.
But you've actually said that people should delete dating apps.
Absolutely.
And I want to know, like, why? Like, what is this thing with dating apps?
I'm really against dating apps.
Okay.
I really am against them. And the reason why I'm against them is because it feeds the idea that there's so many fish in the sea. Okay. And the moment you think that there are so many alternatives and options, you invest less in whatever you have. That's just life. Yeah, if I have lots of cars, I won't care about one car. You know, if I have lots of things in the fridge, things end up going moldy because I forget about the things that I've got so much there. And the moment you train your brain into thinking that there are so many alternatives to whoever you're talking to and whoever you're with, when you've trained your brain to that way, even if you don't leave your partner, your subconscious will let you think that you can talk to them a certain way, act a certain way, because if worse comes to worse, I'll move on. And I think that's what's the reason why divorce is so common. I think that's the reason why relationships have fallen apart. And I think that's the main reason why relationships in our grandparents' generations worked. There was no alternatives. Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. It's almost like social media has basically ruined relationships. It ruins it because, like, back when, you know, parents and grandparents were together, they're not divorced.
There's no options.
There was
who
no
are you
other
going to cheat with? You
options.
have to send a letter with, like, to who? So it's and the thing is, it doesn't mean that they were unhappy. The less options, the happier you are, because you're not comparing anything. So people always think, but they were really unhappy. But I'm like, are you happy in this generation? In the way, are you happy? Because you're saying it like they were dumb and you've got it great. But are you happy? And I don't think most people are.
So you think dating apps basically widens options and it's not a good thing?
People who have success stories were probably healthy people who would have had success with whoever they met, whether they met somebody at the gym or whether they met somebody at the supermarket.
But it just happened to be
a platform. Yeah. But majority of people, what it does is designed. You've got to remember, it's a business. So Tinder is designed to keep you on Tinder. Bumble is designed to keep you on Bumble. It's a business. It's a corporation. It's
not designed for you to meet the love of your life.
You meet the love of your life. They want to keep you on there, and they want to keep you on there as long as possible. And when you realize that's how it's designed, you realize it's never designed for you to find connection.
Wow, that is very true.
Yeah.
What do you think of location sharing in a relationship?
I would say if you've got an anxious attachment style, which a lot of people do, and you're jealous and you've got that nature, you have to try your absolute best not to feed that dragon in you. Okay. And that dragon looks like, show me your location. Where are you going? Because all that does is see it as like a devil inside you, that anxious inside, see it as a devil. Every time you feed it with, I'm going to check who you're following, I'm going to check what you're doing, I'm going to check this, I'm going to check, you're giving it food and letting it grow. Every time you starve that devil inside you, you're having to rely on trust. Yeah. And when you're not allowing yourself to rely on trust and you're allowing yourself to rely on that devil, you know what path you're choosing. Yeah. So you have to train your brain to rely on trust.
And I guess if you didn't feed, like, let's say we're talking, you know,
I call it a devil because it literally is a devil. Yeah. It's
if we're not feeding that devil, I guess you're instantly gonna forget about it and almost move on from it.
Slowly, you'll start behaving like a secure person.
Yeah.
Because secure people don't do that. Mm-hmm. So you're forced to, and it's so much anxiety. It's like fighting against the urge, but you're doing your future self lots of favors. Yeah. And if you're not, and you're feeding the devil, you're doing your future self a disservice. And you've got to remember your future self. Yeah.
Okay, I feel like I'm giving you 5 questions right now, but what's your opinion on a one-night stand?
You know what I'm going to say. It's awful. It's awful because you know what it is? Very few people will leave a one-night stand and think, I'm so glad I did that.
People probably leave actually feeling awful,
dirty,
that they did it.
Dirty, yeah. And men can 5 minutes brag, I had a one night stand with this chick, blah blah blah, this, that, and the other. And but majority of women, I can't imagine a bigger insult as a woman to have a one night stand because that person didn't call you back. Like, are you not embarrassed? Like, I know. It's like, isn't that embarrassing? That
I don't think it's somebody to shame anybody for what they want to do, but I think for me, it's just not the life I want to live.
I can understand guys are different or whatever it is, but as a woman, if you have a one night stand, what that screams is, why isn't he calling you back? Like, why hasn't he called you again? Like, I would be so insecure if I had a one night stand, because all I'd be thinking is, so he didn't want to see me again. And so I can't understand what is in it for a woman. I get 10 minutes of pleasure, but sacrifice that 10 minutes of pleasure with a lifetime of value.
Oh yeah, that is actually very true. I think a lot of people think, you know, it's something. Well, I wouldn't say people. I think this is. I'm just going to say. I think men want to brag about stuff like that more. Yeah, as a woman, I don't see what there is to brag about. What there is to say about it.
Yeah, for men, I can still understand. You know, it's more about conquest and stuff like that. For women, you know what it is. When it comes to one night stands and when it comes to sex, women have far more to lose. You get pregnant. You can, you know, you get more diseases, whatever it is. So to share that risk with a nobody makes no sense to me.
What I will never understand is, imagine getting a disease from someone like that was a one night stand.
Honestly, putting your body through for this guy who doesn't even know your name.
Yeah, no, I would just die.
Yeah, I would die. So I don't think it's anything to brag about, and I don't think sex is enough pleasure for you to devalue yourself.
Would you say women get more attached in that situation?
I think they've learned to condition themselves. I do know lots of women have conditioned themselves to not get attached and see it as liberating and genuinely not care about it.
Or one night stand.
And a lot of men think that women are still emotionally attached, and it's not true. A lot of women have conditioned themselves to just see it as a one night stand and not think about it the next day. But I can't imagine happy women doing it.
Yeah.
So what I would say is the one night stand is a symptom of a deeper emotional issue, and I don't think happy women give their body up as easily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so being Asian and talking so openly about, you know, relationships, because that's predominantly a lot about what you speak about. And, you know, there are some controversial things because you know, you're a psychologist. Yeah. You must receive some hate?
You know what? I have been quite lucky that it hasn't been too much hate. But, you know, I do get, you know, the odd Asians, you know, saying stuff to me here and there. But the hate usually is more gender-based than it is color-based.
Okay.
So what I find, it's more men get angry about a video, women get angry about a video. But praise be to God, I've been quite lucky that my community hasn't come at me particularly because, I would imagine it's because my message seems to be in line with my religion as well. Okay. I don't really promote a lot of like frivolous dating. I don't promote, you know, lots of sex before marriage or anything like that. I actually try and promote long-lasting relationships, which is totally in line with my faith. So I've been quite lucky that I've escaped the haram police a little bit. I'm sure they're going to come at me at some point for this, that and the other, but luckily I've been quite lucky so far.
Someone will always come at you for something.
Somebody will come for me, but...
So I was going to ask you, so are you religious at all? Or?
Yes, I am. I pray 5 times a day and I fast and all that stuff, and I do really associate with my religion. It's something I don't talk about online because obviously I know I don't look it, and I don't want to say something that's offensive at some point or accidentally or whatever it is, and people associate that with my religion. So I want to segregate the two, and I try and keep it as private as possible because it would be like, oh, Muslim girls do this, and I don't want to create that association because I don't trust myself, not because I'm not proud of it. It's just that I might say something sinful, I might do something sinful, and people create that association, and I want to keep my religion and I want to keep God's message as pure as possible.
Yeah, that's a great way to think about it. Would you say your views at all are like basically influenced by your religion? Absolutely, yeah, because I know you just mentioned that. So
there's not one view I have that hasn't been influenced by God. And I've been lucky that life seems to teach me that it happens to be correct. So I have it from God, and then maybe it's my bias or whatever it is, but life teaches me that God's method is always correct anyway. So that combination of my experience and my background happens to be in line. So I've been quite lucky. So things that I'm disagreeing with, like the one night stands, the cheating and this, that and the other, happens to be in line. Yeah, praise be to God.
I spoke once actually on my Instagram about interracial and interfaith marriages. I did like a whole video about it, and it got a lot of reaction. I want to know your opinion about it.
I'm from a faith perspective, there's no such thing as color, so I have absolutely no qualms with interracial relationships. I do think it's difficult because I think cultures are different, and you know, and not because of race, but it's just because when your values are different, your upbringing is different, your families don't speak the same language, it makes things difficult.
A lot of people were saying that, which I understood. But I was like, if it's someone's choice, and maybe they, you know, could teach their kids, for example, they could upbring them in a way where they understand both. I think that's quite nice.
And absolutely. But the one thing that bothers me and triggers me about the interracial dating thing in the Asian community is I feel like Asians are quite open to interracial dating, but there is colorism in it.
Yes.
There's a lot of colorism in it. So they are a bit more okay if you're dating somebody who's not your race, but similar color to you. But I do think that there's, especially the men in our culture, if they see their women with dating men of a different race or different color, if they see Asian girls with black men, they feel a way about it. They won't say it openly, but I know that they feel a way about it. And I think that racism bothers me because it's so specific. If I can understand if it's generic and it's like, oh, I want you to stay within your own, but it's actually so specific to one culture in particular, that triggers me a bit. But have you ever experienced that or noticed that they have a way about that?
Sorry?
Have you ever noticed that they feel a bit more of a way when like Asians with a particular colour?
Yeah, no, I was going to say, I think colorism plays a big part because I think people feel it more because, you know, you can see it in a way. People feel it more when you can see something, which is obviously not the right way to think at all. I completely disagree with it. I hate anything like racism, but I think it's definitely
it's a thing, right? Especially in our culture. So it's something that we do have to kind of out a little bit because it's so like undercover and hush-hush. But it's like, okay, but then say that with your chest because that's really a wrong way to look at life. I can understand if you want them to stay within your own for whatever reasons, cultural reasons, this, that and the other, but if you've got a particular problem with just one subgroup, that's where I get triggered.
So how can people book you for like a one-to-one therapy session or like a self-coach session?
Well, I'm on the radio, on UK Health Radio every week, and I'm also reachable by TikTok and Instagram at Sadia Psychology, and you can book one-to-one sessions, or you know, you can have an hour, half an hour, it can be couples, whatever you need. You can always contact me and I will try and schedule something in as soon as possible.
Oh my God, I love that. And on the radio, you said the UK Health one. Do you speak all things just relationships?
No, what I've done there is you can send your dilemmas to me via Instagram and I read them out, or you can call in and I give a quick 10 minutes for each question. I give you my professional opinion, and then obviously you can take it or leave it, but then that's the segment of the show, and I will try and theme the show so it will be like questions on cheating one day, abuse on another, toxic relationship, whatever it is.
That's free advice. There
you go. So you can do that. You can contact me either way. But yeah, I'm out here.
Well, you guys heard it there. Sadia Psychology. Great psychologist. If you guys want to book, you know where to go. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on my show.
Thank you so much for having me. I loved it.
Thank you guys for tuning into my 5th episode. Bye.